Greetings and welcome to my channel. This is Sorcerer Tal. You can also find me on Facebook in the Sorcerer's Guild. Today on the Sorcerer's Shadow Volume 1 we are going to be discussing the essay entitled Divination. Now this essay is more on the theory of divination because later on we will devote an entire volume of the Sorcerer's Shadow to the practice of divination. So for now we just want to go over the basic theory and get you comfortable with the idea of how divination works. Now there are lines of probability or momentum that affect every situation. You could refer to this as the synchronicity around an event, question, person, place, or thing. And these lines of probability that are around any of those things are what we are reading when we are doing divination and asking a question about a person, place, thing, or about the future. So, in order to read these lines of probability, we give symbols and assign them meanings, such as your runes, tarot cards, I Ching sticks, whatever tool you want to use. You then subject those symbols to a random selection. Now you can't just randomly pick something out of a bag, and even if the symbols are given meaning, if you just randomly pick something, you're not getting anything. You need to link to the lines of probability around the situation you're asking about. So you focus on your question. And you even want to pull yourself into gnosis at this point. If you need to, and it's the only form of divination of gnosis that you have learned, you can use the vortex charging method to simply charge your hands, and as you're doing that, focus on them being drawn into the situation and focus on the question. And while you're doing this is when you will start shaking the bag to pull your runes, or when you start shuffling the cards or anything like that, because when you are focusing on the question, you are drawing the lines of probability affecting that situation into the random shuffle of the cards. And once that line of probability or synchronicity is pulled into that shuffling of the cards or shaking of the bag, it then begins to affect the randomness. And the symbols that are connected with that situation are selected by the line of probability affecting your question. And the symbols are put forth, and it is those symbols that you then read. Last, when you throw out the runes onto the chart or begin flipping the cards after they have been shuffled. So, some people like to have the person that is asking the questions, the querent, shuffle the cards. That is fine, but you want to make sure that they are focusing on the situation. In fact, they can have a stronger link because they are more affected. They are directly linked to whatever it is they're asking the question about. But you want to be sure that they are focusing on it and aren't going to be distracted on something else, because that can throw it off. So there are questions as to whether or not to have the querent shuffle the cards. I personally, I just do it all myself. I will focus on the person and then create the link through the person and then focus on the question as I am shaking the bag before I draw the runes out. Okay, so another thing that I discuss here is the things that can throw a reading off. Now, this is especially important when you're reading for yourself. In fact, you're always at a disadvantage when you're reading for yourself because we have biases, we have opinions, and those are always going to be things that your mind is telling you the answer rather than your intuition, your thoughts. We want to be wary of this. This is exceptionally hard to read for yourself. That's why it is often good to get a second person to read for you when there are questions involving yourself. There are ways to overcome this, but it is something that needs to be taken into consideration. This can also be a problem when you are reading to people whom you care about or know a lot about because you, again, have opinions that can bias what you are reading. This is why some people won't read for people that they know personally because they're afraid of this bias. Now again, you can be effective in reading for close personal friends or family, anyone like that, but you need to be aware of your biases and keep them out of your mind while you're reading. You need to focus on the cards or the runes and allow them to speak to you rather than telling them what they say. That's what we find ourselves doing with these biases. If you find yourself assuming what the runes mean rather than listening to them, you may be throwing the reading off. Okay, and the last thing. Nothing is set in stone when you're doing a reading. Just because it says that tragedy is going to befall you. Okay, well, that doesn't mean it's going to. This means that it could. So, what's the point in doing divination if you're not going to change that? That's the point. If you see things in the future that are going to be a problem, well, we can take steps to correct that. And in fact, that's a good time to do a second question. If it says that this tragedy is in your future, then you can do a second question for your querent about how to avoid that tragedy, how to get out of that situation. But the reverse is also true. Just because it says a wonderful thing is going to happen, if you then deviate from your path because of what the reading said, well, now you've thrown off the situation and changed the flow and could then actually take that good thing away from you. So you want to listen to what the cards are saying. If they are saying that you are going to get this good thing because of what you were doing here, keep doing that thing. Don't slack off on it just because it said that you're going to eventually get where you're going. That is an unfortunate reaction that I have seen a few times. Oh, well, this says I'm going to succeed, so I shouldn't try as hard. No, 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 no. It's saying because you're trying so hard, you're going to succeed, so keep trying. Okay, so I have done other videos on the theory of divination. I will go ahead and put a link to that here for future reference. The next video will actually be a group essay. Well, we'll be on a group essay on creating magic sigils. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please take the opportunity to do so now. And don't forget to join us next time for that creating magical sigils essay. Until then, bright blessings and an interesting fate. This has been Sorcerer Tal.